Hello, I'm Mark, and this is In the Round, the remains of the clay. When sculpting in water clay, you will inevitably accumulate a large quantity of slivers and fragments that will quickly dry out. This is particularly true when hollowing a piece in order to fire it. These fragments are easy to reconstitute into slip, an important clay building material which can itself be further reconstituted into plastic clay. Before explaining how to go about doing this, however, I want to emphasize that dry clay, when powdered, is toxic to breathe. The silica in it causes silicosis, an incurable lung disease. Good cleaning habits are essential to a healthy studio environment. Clean thoroughly and often, but never with a brush or a broom, as that will kick up dust. Instead, wet clean with a sponge or a mop. If you're mixing clay from powdered ingredients, do so in a ventilated room and always wear a respirator. To reconstitute your clay fragments for slip or plastic clay, all you will need is a bucket and some water. An immersion blender or a drill with a mixing bit can expedite the mixing process, and a plaster slab is useful for efficiently drying out the slip in order to re-wedge it, but these are not necessary. The fragments themselves need to be small, about 1 to 1.5 cubic inches or smaller, and they need to be bone dry. You will know if your clay is bone dry when it no longer feels cool to the touch. If there is still moisture in your fragments, the water you add won't be able to quickly enter the porous body of the clay and render it down, which will result in lumpy slip. Load your dry fragments into a bucket and submerge them in water, bringing the level up to just over the top of the highest point. How much water this takes will depend on the size of your fragments, but it isn't necessary to be exact. Listen to your bucket. Does it sound like Rice Krispies? If so, good. Now, wait. If your fragments are small and dry, this won't take long. If it turns out they were still a little wet, you might want to give it a few hours, or even overnight. You will see the clay rendering down. Once it starts to look more or less uniform, you can mix it up. Here's where an expendable immersion blender or a mixing bit can help, or you can just use your hand. The slip should be smooth, of a consistency somewhere between yogurt and toothpaste. If slip is your end goal, all that remains is to lid your bucket so that it doesn't dry out. If, however, you want to further reconstitute the slip into plastic clay, you will need to do the opposite. You will need to force dry it. The most efficient way to do this is using a plaster slab. To make one, simply make a form and fill it to a couple of inches with properly mixed pottery plaster. If you don't have a plaster slab, then you can do this on a piece of plywood, but it will take significantly longer. First, spread out your slip. Then wait. Then wedge. If you don't know how to wedge, then see my video, 4 wedgings in a funeral, on different wedging methods.